I, female 21, went on vacation to a beach resort with my family. It was me, my dad, mom, my sister, 31, her husband, brother-in-law, 37, and their 2 kids. My parents booked 2 rooms and I got one for myself, meaning that I paid for it. They didn't force me, but I still paid. I noticed that my sister and brother-in-law were acting strangely before we got to the resort. At the hotel, an argument ensued between them and my sister kicked him out of the hotel room and stayed there with the kids. Brother-in-law then knocked on my door at 1 a.m. asking if he could stay with me for the night because my crazy sister unfairly yelled at him and kicked him out. I tried to pressure him to tell me why, but he stalled. I said I didn't feel comfortable having him sleep in my room, but he snapped and told me that he was like my brother and I was paranoid. I suggested I go talk to my sister and try to get her to let him into the room since he paid for it, but he said no and that she was the one who told him to stay with me. I suggested that I have mom come stay with me and he goes stay with dad, but he refused. I declined and said I couldn't let him spend the night in my room, period. He got mad at me and went borderline hysterical to the point where the staff got involved. My sister then came out of the room and started arguing with him again, which resulted in him sleeping outside. My parents thought I should have let him stay with me, but my sister said it would have been inappropriate and denied telling him to knock on my door and ask to stay with me. He stopped talking to me after that, and my parents insisted that I should have let him stay and not let him sleep outside. They said I created unnecessary tension and added more stress to the vacation by acting selfishly. So, am I the idiot? Very much not the idiot. Your parents are wrong to say that you should sacrifice that comfort to keep the peace. Somehow it's always a woman's job just to be polite instead of having boundaries respected. You offered other solutions and he escalated. Not to mention that he sounds like he's got some super creepy vibes. He lied to you about your sister, saying she had to stay with you. He denied the alternative solution of staying with dad and mom staying with you. Then he has what sounds like a full-on amygdala hijack mental breakdown. Then he's being passive-aggressive and your parents are being total idiots for not having empathy for you. Just an overall you are not the idiot situation. In fact, everyone except OP and sister is an idiot. They said I created unnecessary tension and added more stress to the vacation. Why isn't it the sister who created the unnecessary tension by kicking him out in the first place? Sister is an idiot too. What kind of parents don't back up their daughter when she says she's not comfortable with a man sleeping in her room? I'm not comfortable with this situation should have been the end of the discussion. Who paid for what is irrelevant. If the brother-in-law was refusing to sleep with dad and had to share a room with OP, who by the way is half his age, I'm betting brother-in-law lied. Any sane man would realize it's creepy to try and share a room with a woman that isn't his wife. I bet the sister would have been even more furious if her husband had slept in the sister's room. And we still don't know why brother-in-law and sister-in-law were fighting. I'm betting brother-in-law lied and got caught at something. OP, so his solution was to sleep in your room. Was his plan to get revenge on your sister by telling her he slept with you? Or maybe he thought he could sleep with you. He practically threw a temper tantrum about not getting his way. He turned down sharing a room with the father, so what was his motive for that big show to get in your room? Nothing good. Okay, so my wife, 27, has a habit of putting notes, affirmation in my 31 male lunch when she packs it. She's been doing it for a year now. It started when I suffered from some issues surrounding employment, and I appreciate it a lot because it gives me strength and renews my energy for the rest of the day. So anyway, my co-workers know about them and sometimes would tease me about it, calling me a 4th or 5th grader and calling my wife Granny. Just teasing, nothing unusual for them. It happens at lunch when most of the guys in the department sit together. A co-worker of mine, Jimmy, is the newest employee in our company. He lost his wife a few months ago, and he's a private dude in general. However, he started sitting with us during the lunch break after the guys insisted. So I sit and eat my food after looking at the note my wife left, then rinse and repeat. Till a few days ago, one of the co-workers pulled me aside and we began talking. Then the note thing was brought up. He told me that Jimmy had been enjoying sitting with us during our lunch break but couldn't help but feel uncomfortable with the notes I keep pulling out of my package every day. He then went on to tell me the dude lost his wife and seeing me get notes from my wife hit a nerve because it reminded him of his late wife. I felt puzzled. I asked, okay, what am I supposed to do about it? He told me to consider telling my wife to stop putting those notes and maybe find another way to do it instead of bringing them to work and having Jimmy look at them. Like, I wasn't sure what to say, but I told him it was ridiculous. He reminded me that Jimmy sent him to me with this message thinking it'd give me more space to react, and then told me I lose nothing by having some consideration for the poor guy and be as less insensitive as I can. I told him off and said that it's not my fault Jimmy is struggling with grief, and it's not like I even know him that well to be accommodating him to this extent. He said that I was being cruel and selfish and got the others to witness the argument and shame me for my stance, but I refused to do it and went back to work on my project. Things had been tense at my workplace, and some of the guys I'm close with say I should be more empathetic and try not to make Jimmy uncomfortable after they went through a living nightmare to get him to sit with them on lunch break. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot at all. Your marriage and the way your wife expresses her love is your business. It's unfortunate about Jimmy, but that's a massive boundary he crossed. Are you never allowed to mention your wives again? How long is this supposed to last? I feel sorry for him, but expecting your wife to stop the notes is out of order. I agree with this, and then what's the next step? My dad passed away and now you can't mention your dad to me? What your wife is doing is lovely and it shows how much she loves you. I'm sorry to hear about that other dude's wife. His grief will pass and you need to take care of your marriage. Cherish these moments. They will set the foundation of your relationship with your wife. Believe me. What is this went through a living nightmare to get Jimmy to sit with them BS? Are you working at a kindergarten? Because it sounds like your co-workers, Jimmy included, are very immature for teasing you about the notes and overstepping a boundary and sending an envoy instead of going straight to you himself. Jimmy will just have to learn to deal with the fact that other people have spouses instead of acting as if he's the victim because of it. It's not wise to believe second-hand information from co-workers who had a problem with it before the new guy showed up. I wonder if this co-worker is married or dating or just jealous. OP needs to talk with Jimmy over this to see if it's him that asked in the first place or if his other co-worker is just being an idiot. My husband 30 and I, female 32, are going through some financial struggles. The reason for that is that my husband lost his job. He didn't earn much anyway, working retail, being overworked and underpaid. He said the reason he lost his job was because of his narcissistic boss. Money is tight and the load fell on me to provide for us and pay for everything, including Wi-Fi. He promised to look for a job though. My husband started spending most of his time on his phone. I keep asking if he's looking for a job and he'd say yes, but it's been 3 months now, and I grew suspicious because retail jobs aren't easy to find. On the other hand, I found myself paying so much for Wi-Fi service because of his endless activities on the internet. I didn't say anything till I ran into his former boss at the supermarket. We talked about my husband and I mentioned how he fired him, but he looked at me confused and told me he didn't fire him. My husband quit of his own will after giving him a long rant about how he was sick and tired of working retail and that he'll never work in this field again. I was shocked and also fuming. I went home and confronted him. He admitted that it was true and asked me to understand because he was fed up with working as a server for rude, obnoxious people who don't respect him the way they should. I asked what he was going to do then, and he said he'd been thinking of going back to school to earn a respectable degree and work a decent job. I asked where he would get the money to go back to school and he shrugged and said I could start a fund for him with my salary because, as he said, he would no longer work retail. I lost it at him and told him I wouldn't save money for anything when I could barely manage. Oh, and by the way, I told him I was losing so much money on Wi-Fi service, so I changed the password, prohibiting him from using the internet again till he started helping pay for it. He got mad and shouted about how I was robbing him of his right to use the internet. But I stated that the internet is a privilege, not a right, but he called me selfish and unsupportive. I left for work later and he kept calling me, telling me to give up the password, but I kept refusing. Not the idiot, but what a crappy marriage. OP, you have bigger problems than a password. Are you sure you want to be married to an entitled, lying man you've resorted to treating like a toddler? Whatever he's been doing for the last 3 months isn't job searching, unless he's looking at jobs he's underqualified for, given he's disdainful of retail, especially if it's using enough internet to become a financial drain. He's lied about his last job with his boss and how he parted from it and only admitted to lying when you confronted him with the truth. This is the time to reevaluate the relationship, knowing what you do now and whether you think it's worth taking a chance on your husband or not. OP? Leave. Do you guys have kids? Is there something major you risk losing if you leave him, because this is a big red flag? He quit his job without telling you and lied to you for 3 months, telling you his narcissistic boss fired him, and during the 3 months, he never once told you about his plan to never work retail again and for you to support him? He planned to live off of you and lie to you and wouldn't even have told you he's not looking for jobs if you didn't find his boss. Are we sure he's not the narcissist? I beg you to leave. I know, people always suggest divorce, blah blah, but like some of you all legit need it. I, 45 female, have been a foster mom for 9 years now. The same boy, now a teen, has been in my care for 7 years. I've tried adopting him, but the situation with his birth mom is complicated and it fell through. I consider him my son though in every way that matters. I also fostered other children, but for shorter periods of time. My son and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment. We each have a room and there's a spare room, like a guest bedroom. During the global situation, my sister, 37, and her son, nearly adult, moved in with us. They've been sharing the guest bedroom, even though my sister said that the boys should share a room so she could have her own. I refused to change my son's life like that, and since they were only supposed to be temporary guests, I saw no need. My sister hasn't been looking for a job or anything. She kind of expected to stay here forever, I guess. 2 weeks ago, I started fostering another child, a girl, young teen. It's a longer period placement. A week before she came, I told my sister that she and her son would have to move out in 30 days, also the legal requirement for tenants. Sister begged me not to do this to her and said that the 3 kids can now share a room. We could both keep our own rooms and things don't have to change. I said absolutely the heck not, that's ridiculous. Then she said that at least my 2 foster kids could share a room and she and her son would stay in the same room. I said that I was not about to put a scared, anxious teen girl in the same room as a teen boy because that's just crazy and unreasonable. She cried all the time for a week and begged me not to take this girl in. When this girl came, she, my foster kid, took my room and I stayed on the couch and will for another week until my sister and nephew move out. Yesterday, I came home from work and found my son upset and my foster daughter crying. I asked them what happened and they said that my sister told them that they were just foster people and she and nephew are family, so they, sister and nephew, will stay while they, foster kids, will have to leave. I lost it and I told my sister to have her stuff packed in a week because if she doesn't disappear on day 30, I'm calling the cops and having her dragged out. She's been begging me to let her and the son stay for a while longer and make the stepkid share a room for a while because otherwise she'll be homeless. Not the idiot. Your sister thought you would let her stay after she traumatized 2 innocent teens is outrageous. Yeah, telling 2 foster kids that they'll be kicked out will make you change your mind and let her stay, right? What was her goal with this? She brought this onto herself. Don't let her blame you for being homeless when she has plans to take advantage of your kindness. She will continue to mooch off of you if you let her stay. Make sure to change the locks or get your key back if she has one, and be there when she leaves so that she doesn't try to steal anything. She is 100% mooching and taking advantage of OP's kindness. It was supposed to be temporary, but the sister's reaction makes it sound like she was planning on staying indefinitely and is mad that she couldn't. Change the locks regardless. I wouldn't put it past her to make a copy before she returns the key. She seems like the kind of person who would do that. Her homelessness is not your problem. I'm always blown away by the audacity so many beggars have. Like, you have 0 obligations to make sure your mature adult sister and her nearly adult himself son have a roof over their heads. It's a major kindness and morally right, but once she goes and acts and says crap like this, nope. All kindness comes to a stop, and you can figure out your own mess of a life. For some very messy context, I, 37 female, am married to Ryan, 36 male. I have a sister we'll call Sam, 32, and an ex-husband who we'll call Dan, 34. Cut straight to the point. Dan and Sam are married now. Dan had an affair with her, which I only found out about through one of his friends who had felt guilty about knowing. So we got divorced and they got married a year later, to which I wasn't invited. While this was an awkward point in my family, we no longer talked about it. I usually avoid the 2 of them where possible. Ryan and I met a few years later and have been married for 2 years now. Recently I found out I was pregnant and decided to hold a small family gathering with our parents, his sister, and a few other close members. My sister and Dan were not invited. My mother brought this up but forgot about it once I told her the news. She told Sam apparently once she got home, which didn't surprise me really. I got a strongly worded text, to put it nicely, from Sam saying that it was horrible of me not to invite her, as it excluded her from the family and my baby was going to be her niece-nephew anyway. We continued talking, me explaining why she wasn't invited, obviously that being that I wanted a comfortable family gathering, which led to her going on about her being part of the family, which meant that she should have been invited. I spoke to my mother about it and she agreed with Sam, saying that whether I like it or not, I'd have to get used to Sam and Dan since they would be in the child's life, that not inviting them was petty of me. I don't know what to think right now. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She cheated with your husband, then married him. They aren't close family either. They made it abundantly clear by their actions that they don't care about you or love you at all. Sam and Dan are selfish jerks. Your mom is an enabler. I go no or low contact for a while. You don't deserve to be treated so poorly. Godspeed on the new baby, love. How much do you want to bet Mom will have sister and ex-brother-in-law over to meet child even if OP says no? OP, it's not for your mother or anyone else to tell you how you should be reacting, or even to request your sister's presence in any aspect of your life. Hang on a minute, your own sister slept with your husband, causing the two of you to divorce, after which she married him and, wait for it, she's angry at you because you didn't invite her to your pregnancy announcement? Really? Honey, you are way more forgiving than I would have been. I'd have thrown her home-wrecking butt into the wide blue yonder and cut contact with both of them permanently.